What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. First, okay, we got some big news here. So, we know that Republicans and Democrats are fighting over this debt ceiling, which could cripple our economy, prevent Social Security payments, prevent all debt payments, and literally cause a default of our country. Well, I'll give you some Republican point of view because really, right now, Republicans, we're waiting on their demands to see what Republicans want to cut because we don't know. So I'll let you hear Republican point of view on that. Also, Republicans say they're going to be investigating Dr. Anthony Fauci. So we also have an update on that. So let's jump right in here. If you're new to our channel, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any new videos here. And let's jump right in. So we'll go directly to an interview with Senator Rand Paul on both of these. So first, he talks about the Republican point of view to balance the budget, and he thinks this is possible. I think this would be very hard to do after hearing the other Republican talk about how much debt we spend, $1 trillion a year just in interest, which is unbelievable. And we're also spending over $800 billion a year, almost $1 trillion a year, just in the military. So when you think about that, both of those are almost $2 trillion a year between the interest and the just the money for the military. But here's what he says about the debt ceiling negotiations, and which is really big right now. Then we'll get to the Dr. Anthony Fauci investigation here in a second. Take a listen.
Time you're on the show. You know, you're the perfect person for this story because Americans have seen inflation go up more than 13% since Biden took office. The San Fran Fed Bank, officials out in San Francisco, they blame a lot of that on massive spending, like 3 percentage points. You've done a lot of work on government waste and fraud. You know, it's so easy to seem like you're a generous, great person with someone else's money.
Yeah, the thing is we could balance our budget and we could get rid of the inflation, but you have to spend what comes in. And I've been proposing for years budget plans that actually would bring us to balance within 5 years. Even now, as bloated as the government has become with the COVID bailouts, we could actually cut spending by about $200 billion and then freeze it over about a 5-year period, and you actually lead to balance. But it's incredibly important that you would have to reduce spending and stay there for a few years. And most of the people proposing solutions, both Republicans and Democrats, are really proposing things that are inadequate and will never balance the budget. So I think we have to be more dramatic, and I think if we do, we'll be rewarded with stable dollar, stable prices, and we'll get rid of the inflation.
Exactly, and stable growth. That's it. You just hit the nail on the head. I mean, we have this growing scandal, Senator. Now, thousands of government workers caught stealing pandemic jobless benefits, even using their own work computers to steal. It's DHS, Amtrak,
Shocking.
Right? The post office, FEMA, TSA,
we
the
offered
IRS.
people free money, and the free money wasn't enough. They had to cheat to get more free money. So 70,000 people so far have been caught using fake Social Security numbers. One woman, in the period of 40 minutes, was able to get $100,000, and hours later she bought a ticket to Hollywood to spend $5,000 on a hotel that night. So yeah, the scam artists are out. People stole money from overseas. There are people from overseas that we will never catch.
But they're inside government. But the point is they're inside government, right?
Some inside government, yes, but also even people overseas. You name it, you look anywhere, people were stealing the money. And this is not uncommon. Money doesn't grow on trees, but when it appears to, here come the vultures.
I mean, to your point, I mean, it's astounding. I mean, 5 IRS workers stole more than $1 million in pandemic jobless benefits. They spent in our cars, luxury goods. Go ahead.
Well, we banned TikTok, so they're not allowed to watch TikTok anymore. So I guess they spend their time now stealing money. Maybe we should let them go back to watching TikTok, you know? So,
so you've done your Festivus report. I couldn't believe this number, $482 billion in government waste. And they really, and really the president says there's no spending cuts to be found with Kevin McCarthy just moments ago.
It boggles the mind, and you can't get your mind around a number like 482, but get your mind around this. $2.4 million spent injecting beagles with cocaine to see if there are any adverse effects of cocaine. All you got to do is go to the streets of San Francisco if you want to see the adverse effects of cocaine. $118,000 to study whether or not there's a guy named Thanos who's a Marvel Comics villain, and whether or not when he snaps his fingers, can he create lightning? So they hired a guy, gave him metal gloves to see if he could snap his fingers. That was $118,000 to see if we could recreate or simulate a Marvel Comics villain. The government's riddled with this stuff. $700,000 to study how a male parrot attracts a female parrot.
All right. Well, this makes people crazy. Now the White House, the president's saying we're going to raise taxes. Senator Sanders, talking about raising taxes. Senator Wyden talking taxes. It feels like a lot of the things derailed, like the wheels came off the ship or the car here because of the pandemic, because of lockdowns.
Yeah, so let me know your thoughts on this. Obviously, I think we all know that the government for a long time has been spending ridiculous money on some ridiculous things. Um, yeah, so what's interesting though is that this last budget and the budget before were both approved by both Republicans and Democrats. Even when Democrats, were in control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency, they still needed 60 votes in the Senate to pass it. So they needed Republican support. They needed Mitch McConnell and Republicans vote there. So they did need Republicans to sign off, and they did need Republican votes there. So it's not, and again, I'm not from either party. I just kind of tell the truth here. It's just kind of the way things are. But there is a lot of ridiculous stuff that the government spends money on. Who even comes up with this stuff? I don't know. You let me know your thoughts here in the comments. It's just ridiculous. Yeah. Okay, so next up, Republicans, now that they're in control of the House, are adamant that they're going to be investigating Dr. Anthony Fauci and the origins of the virus, and a lot of investigating into the vaccine and a lot of the side effects and things like this. Take a listen. Let me know your thoughts.
Because of the pandemic, because of lockdowns, and we know that the House is going to launch probes into the origins of COVID. We're talking COVID relief fraud and possibly subpoena Dr. Fauci. We've been tracking Dr. Fauci for years. We want you to listen to this. Watch.
I didn't shut down anything. I recommended to the president that we shut the country down. And the only way to do that is by draconian means of essentially shutting down a country. We know that we can do that if we shut down. Well, if I knew at the time that shutting down would have such a dramatic effect on controlling the spread, obviously we would have shut down earlier.
Was it a mistake in so many states and so many localities to see schools closed as long as they were?
I had nothing to do. Let's get down to the facts.
What do you think, Senator?
Dishonesty, lying. I had him in committee, and I asked him why we couldn't open the schools, and he said it was too soon. He's on record at least 20 different times saying the schools should stay closed, and then 20 more times saying, well, maybe we should open them. He would flip-flop from both positions, but he never had the courage to look at the data. The data was apparent early in 2020 from Europe. They left the schools open in Sweden, and not one child died. They looked at the mortality of the teachers because, see, people said if you leave the kids may die, but their teachers will die. The rate of illness and mortality among teachers was the same as the general public. So the thing is there was data early on. He refused to see it because at every step, his impulse was to shut down, lock down, and stop it. But it also didn't stop the disease. We locked the schools down for 2 years. Our kids, lost a year, 2 years of schooling. But every one of them still got it. 80 to 90% of your kids have already had COVID, despite everything Fauci tried to do.
Are you going to subpoena him?
Without question, I think the House will. I don't know that we will have the power to in the Senate, but I can promise you every day I am discovering something new about what he's done. And still, within government, the NIH and Health and Human Services, part of your government, are resisting giving us information on grants, information on reports. We ask for 250 pages. Health and Human Services, part of our government, blanked out all 250 pages. They blacked out, they redacted 250 pages of normal documents that
what?
every taxpayer should be able to see.
On what?
It's on the origins, it's on the grants, it's on the science of what was going on, it's on the funding.
Another
and
cover-up.
ultimately, this is where Fauci is culpable. He made the terrible judgment to fund dangerous research in a totalitarian country, and it wound up with a pandemic. History will record that he has a large amount of responsibility for this pandemic.
Yeah, so let me know your thoughts here. Do you think that closing the schools was the right idea? Do you think that lockdown that we had was the right idea? Remember that China's lockdown was far, far greater than the type of lockdown we had. And now that they're coming out of lockdown, you can see the explosion that they're having right now. You can see here more than 88 million people in one district infected alone. That's almost as many as the entire United States had. We have a little bit over 100 million cases. And China says that their outbreak has infected 80% of the population, which they have 1.4 billion people. So that would mean that over a billion people have caught the virus now since they've opened their country, opened their doors, basically. A billion people right now. Wow. It's unbelievable. And remember that former President Donald Trump was criticized when he wanted to basically shut out China from being able to come over here at the beginning, before the pandemic even really, when we just started it. He wanted to not allow them to travel in. And then now Biden actually requires anybody that's coming over here to get a negative test. But there's a billion people that have recently had it over there. So I mean, can you even contain that at this point? Is this going to cause a new resurgence? Yeah, so let me know your thoughts here on this, because it's kind of crazy. And remember that Biden has just announced that the pandemic is over here on May 11th, at least the official announcement of it. But will we see that change here with all this stuff going on here? So let me know your thoughts here in the comments, and I'll keep you up to date here with everything going on here in our country. You won't hear a lot of this stuff here in mainstream news. So make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. It's completely free to do so. New videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll keep you up to date here. Also, thanks for liking and share these videos so everybody else can see this information here. Here's some videos you can watch next. Here's another video on the vaccine with some new data here that you need to know about. And here's actually some good news that came out here from the Fed. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.